Huntsville, Alabama, and have enjoyed Huntsville hosting the Gridiron Men's Conference the last few years, and looking forward to going back. I'm honored to be with Robert Jeffress, Phil Waldrop, David Jeremiah, Mike Whitson, and also this weekend we'll get an opportunity to hear our next guest, Mike Pence, who joins us now on the Rick and Bubba Show. Mike, welcome to Rick and Bubba. How are you today?
I'm just great, Rick. Thanks for having me on the Rick and Bubba Show. And I guess I should say, long-time listener, first-time caller. Great to be on, man. Really, great show.
Thank you. Are you just making us feel good? Are you familiar with the show at all?
Oh, are you kidding me? You guys are on all over. I mean, okay. I appreciate your values. I appreciate the way you carry yourself. And I was telling your producer beforehand, long before I had a 20-year career in politics through Congress as governor and as your vice president, I actually made a living in radio back in the 1990s here in Indiana. And never as big as Rick and Bubba, but I mean, we were on all over the state. Just loved it. But you guys are awesome.
Well, Mike, it's funny. Phil Waldrop, with the Gridiron, he told me that, and I was like, so I didn't know Pence had a background in radio. We may let you walk a song.
Yeah,
we may let you jock a little bit.
I could have brought you in. I'm a bumper music guy. I wish we would have had bumper music at the White House. You start a press conference, just a little bumper music, bring it in, and those were great years, and that's when I started. People would call the radio show and they'd say, I've been listening to you. I'm trying to figure out where you're coming from, and that's when I started saying, I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican in that order.
Yeah.
And and our show was carried. You guys, you share those same values, that same perspective, and you do it in such a winsome and entertaining way. I just really want to commend you.
Well, you're kind to say that, and also watching the way you have, when it comes to the faith, which, let's be honest, you listed that first because at the end of it all, that's all that's going to matter. But I do commend you because it is tough. I mean, when you deal with the current state of politics today, many people, I'm just going to be transparent with you. I've had these thoughts myself of going, I just don't know that I want to step into that world. And I've even kind of changed the way I operate on, people want you to endorse them as candidates and things like that because it's become so toxic is really the only word I can think of. And those people I know, like yourself, that have served that I know personally, they've come back and said, "Oh man, it's worse than you even think." And I don't want to have that attitude of giving up and going, there's just nothing we can do. And you obviously don't have that attitude because you've served as governor and you've served in Congress, and of course you've served as our vice president. And now you have decided to throw your hat in the ring for president. So tell me about that from you and I as followers of Christ. Tell me why you're doing this.
Well, first and foremost, it was a great privilege to serve this country in all those capacities.
Yeah.
And I had friends tell me years ago, Rick, that there's two kinds of people in politics. There's people that are called and people that are driven.
Yeah.
And, if you want to grab a copy of my book, I put a book out last fall, and I try to be transparent there. I've been both. Early in my career, I was one of these guys that let my political ambition get ahead of living out my faith in the public square. But the last 20 years, with my wife Karen at my side, we've sought to carry ourselves in a way that would honor God and stand for the values that we believe in while we serve the country. And the Lord's really blessed our path beyond anything that we could have imagined. But over the last 2 years, traveling the country and getting to know people like Phil Waldrop and others, we've just been listening and reflecting and praying. And I'm just convinced that the country's in a lot of trouble right now. I think the current administration, its policies, weaken America at home and abroad. I think in so many ways our culture, as your segment at the bottom of the last half hour was reflecting, our culture is just in a state of confusion, at least in the popular culture. But I'm convinced that many more are with us than are with them. This is a great country of good, decent, faith-filled, freedom-loving people, and Karen and I just felt called at the end of the day to step forward and give voice to those values and hold up a candidacy and trust the American people and the good Lord for the way forward. In my announcement last week in Iowa, I said, we don't know what the future holds, but we know who holds the future.
Amen.
And we're going to carry ourselves forward and offer that candidacy. But I got to tell you, being at the Gridiron conference this week with you and with Phil Waldrop and Robert Jefferson and others, that's a joy for me, because that's just an opportunity to step away from the whole political process and just talk about what's most important in our life, which is the decision I made in 1978 to put my faith in Jesus Christ as my personal Lord and Savior, and the chance to come there and just reflect, not on politics and policy, but just to reflect on the difference that our faith in Christ has meant to me and to my wife, to our marriage, to our family, and because ultimately, you and I both know that's the hope. That's the hope of the future.
Well, and I didn't know you were tied to the Asbury revival. Is that where is that accurate? That's where God spoke to you?
Yeah. Yeah, good heavens. It's amazing what you can find with Google, isn't it? I mean,
actually, it was a text from Phil. It was a text from Phil. Yeah, but is that so? That tell us what happened.
Well, no. So I walked away from faith when I was in high school. I had a little bit of social success. I had the gift of the gab. Became popular. I just figured religion was a crutch I didn't need anymore. Right. And I went off to a little college in southern Indiana and started to meet some young men that just described themselves as Christian, and they talked about having a personal relationship with God. It was unfamiliar to me, and I ended up traveling in 1978 to a Christian music festival that took place at Asbury University, and it was called Ichthus, and I sat there on a hillside for 2 days and listened to the early days of contemporary Christian music. I listened to preaching, and as I love to tell people, it was like I heard the words for the very first time, that God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten Son, that whoever might believe in him might not perish but have everlasting life. And I stood up as the light rain came down on a Saturday night and walked down and made a decision to put my faith in Jesus Christ. And my life has just changed my life forever. And I hope people know that whatever else they might know about the Pences, know about our family, that's where our strength and our hope comes from.
Yeah, well, when this weekend, don't you think too? Obviously, government was allowed to kind of keep order. Romans 13, it's pretty clear what government is there for, and so we can do that. But coming up this weekend, and that is important, and like we say, we actually, unlike the men of the Bible, we can actually have a say on who we vote for and who's going to lead. Ultimately, God will allow either for a blessing or for punishment who gets into that office. But this weekend, and it's kind of been our passion here, is I kept hearing all my life, and we have similar testimonies, but that men had been given so much influence and headship, not inequality. Men and women are equal, but they're beautifully distinct, and the roles are distinct, both equally important but different. And I kept hearing this on Father's Day, but then I kind of noticed in most churches the effort to disciple men out of spiritual infancy really didn't exist. It was really only talked about on Father's Day, and me, because I'm a C student from Calhoun County, Alabama, but I'm gifted with a superpower of common sense, and I thought, well, shouldn't if these men have all this influence, and the family unit is under attack, and God has designed the man to be head of the family, shouldn't we be addressing him first? Isn't that one of the most important ministries, if not the most important in the church? Because it seems like if this guy would get under the authority of Christ, be transformed by the Holy Spirit, and take his proper role in the house, the church, and society, we would solve most of our problems. And so I think the kind of things like this weekend, for you and I and the other men to have access to speak into these men's life, if you can get men, this is what we say, we have a discipleship strategy at themanchurch.com, and we say disciple men, change everything. So I think one of the best gifts we could give our society and our country is for these men to get right with Christ. Well,
I'm very moved by your words. Couldn't agree more that it's, what is it? The Bible tells us to turn the hearts of the fathers to their children. I mean, when you look at the challenges that we face, the challenge of family in America faces today, the number of kids that are growing up in fatherless homes, I think it just ties so much to the challenges that we're facing in our society. And so I do think that conferences like this, in fact, my daughter and I, be announced tomorrow, but I'll break the news on the Rick and Bubba show. Here we go. Are you ready? Okay, News division is ready in all the stations. Look, I did a book last fall, my memoir entitled "So Help Me God," but we're going to announce tomorrow my second book coming out this fall. I'm writing it with my daughter, who's a best-selling author in her own right. And it's entitled "Go Home for Dinner." And it's just personal reflections on our life, our family. I had somebody tell me a couple of years ago. They said, I'd love to read the story about your life and your political career and stuff, but he said to me, and I say this with great humility. He said, the story I want to read is how do you have a family like yours living the life you've lived? Yeah. And God gets the glory for that. My wife is incredible. Yeah. We got great kids, but it's also been because we tried to live out that priority of, first and foremost, me being the husband and father that God called me to be. And so it's filled with anecdotes about how we did that. But I used to say that when I was in Congress, Rick. People would say, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" And I used to say, "Home for dinner," because I never need encouragement to work hard or to go after it. I mean, it's in my nature. But you got to decide you're going to put your family first.
True. So true.
And so our new book coming out reflects on that, and I hope it's a blessing to people.
Well, everything you've already done have been a blessing, and I cannot wait to get an opportunity to hang with you this weekend. I'm going to come in for the whole conference. I don't speak till Saturday, but I'm coming in Friday and wanting to hear the whole thing because I need to hear what you guys have to say as much as I need to say something. So look forward to seeing you this weekend, and thanks for taking time to be with us today.
Hey, great to be on the Rick and Bubba show, and thanks for having me. Did you want me to ride the bumper music out, or did you got that?
All right, Pence, can you hear it? Can you hear it on the phone?
I can.
Okay, just tell them we'll be right back with more Rick and Bubba.
What a great show.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate you, buddy. Mike Pence.
Hey, that was great. You're awesome. See you this weekend.
All right, man. See you this weekend. Mike Pence spending time with us today. What an honor to get to talk to him, and we'll be back. More Rick and Bubba coming up right after this.
Rick and Bubba, Rick and Bubba.
But anyway, so Bubba will be back as soon as he can. Now, this is a normal thing we do. Bubba and I do this every time, and that is to now go back and assess the interview process and how it went. And this is where we break down film. Mm-hmm. This is a part, and a lot of you have made sure that I was very aware of this. Is no matter how long you've been doing something, you're in error if you stop banging on your craft. If you ever stop trying to get better, then that's a mistake because then you'll become a parody of yourself and people will lose interest in what you're doing. Okay, and when you have things that you don't do well, you must address those and you must be honest about them. You must not be delusional about them. And in the world of what we do, just for me personally, one of the most difficult things is interviewing other people.
That's tough.
I'm always a little bit anxious about it. It drives Speedy crazy because he has to get the person actually on, so it's no fun for him. And honestly, I'm just speaking for me. I'm not a very good interviewer, and it was probably the weakest pitch that I throw in my little skill set. So I've heard some of those painful interviews that I've done in the past. And so I've tried to really work on it and do better. I sense some improvement, but I will tell you, Mike Pence, the guest has a lot to do with that.
Yes,
if you ever sense as an interviewer that the guest is going to give you yes and no answers, look, let me tell you, if you want to really struggle, especially in this new world of podcasts, have 45 minutes with a guest, and you ask the first question, you think they're going to give you like maybe tell us your story. And they talk for about 20 seconds.
Oh, boy.
And they go, and that's pretty much it. And you're just like,
And you look at the clock,
you look
go,
over at that clock and go, wow, so we have 41 minutes left. And,
Need you here.
Yeah, and so, or if there's nothing that ruins an interview more than there'd be a technical problem.
Yeah.
The phone's not very good. The Zoom's locking up. You talk about taking an interview and you're just dying.
That Zoom stuff.
Oh, it's just nerve wracking.
Zoom stuff.
But
Man, it'll
I'm
mess one up.
going to go this far. If I could give a pointer to the Pence campaign, I believe that this show is good for Pence.
Yeah.
I think that Mike Pence I just talked to, is the guy that I want to hang with. Mm-hmm. He's loosened up. We're cutting up a little bit. He's wanting to walk the bed. Mm-hmm. He loves. We're jockeying a little bit, and we're talking about things that really matter. And that was those of you out there that have been acted foolish about us having him on today, and you're being unreasonable. If you decided not to hear the interview with him, you're the one that missed it.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, we've already gotten emails from
Trump supporters.
Yeah, that said that they really enjoyed that. And
this
he was
interview
a class
today was
act.
not about Trump.
Yeah,
it was about Mike Pence.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
even
yeah.
Pence's team has sent a text saying that he really enjoyed that. So I thought it went well. And setting up interviews,
he did his part too, like you said. He did his
yeah.
homework. He knew about the show.
It was just refreshing because we can talk politics. You see that every time you turn on the TV. But to talk about what's important and what's going on this weekend and hearing him and his story, I think was extremely important. And it had me listening. A lot of times setting up the interviews, I have so much anxiety about getting them on and then being on time and stuff. Once the interview starts, it's all like, whew, okay. But on this one, I was glued into what he was saying because it was so intriguing and it was such a great interview of what he had to talk about.
So let's go back to this now, and I know you are thinking it, and y'all were trying to be nice to me because I'm sitting here going, let Rick have his moment. It kind of went well. Mm-hmm. He didn't have Bubba with him. He still did okay.
You think you're all friends?
No.
No, I really think you are in this one.
Greg, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. This is time for y'all to talk to me. This is time for y'all to love me enough to talk with me about reality. See, right now, I can hardly wait to get to Huntsville.
But here's the best part.
And I can hardly wait to get to that area where the speakers hang out. I can hardly wait.
Well,
and I think he's going to send me, hey, Burgess, what's up, Burge? What's up, Burge?
Or Rick's going to walk in and he'll go, Rick, hey, nice to meet you, Rick.
Jerry, don't do that.
And have no idea who he is.
I didn't say go that far that other way. I didn't say go that far.
Yeah. Rick,
I
I've
think
got
there
you
is
fishing.
a-
at
Now,
the
what
li-
do you do?
I've got you fishing
nice.
at the farm with him. Rick.
I know.
Look, I'm not giving you a cabinet position.
Two
if
words, Tony Evans.
If he was to win the election, okay?
Yeah.
I don't think there's a cabinet position coming your way, but I will say this. If this weekend you have an opportunity to have 5 or 10 more minutes, just you and him, then then there's a friendship there. I'll give you that for sure. And you know
What if
how
they
I'm about
ask you if
this.
you're-
I'm very brutally
You are,
honest on
you
these
are,
things.
you
But there was something there that went very well. There was a connection there, and if you play your cards right this weekend, I think that will turn into something.
But don't come in too hot.
No,
Don't come in too hot.
Don't love him too much.
Yeah.
I hope he looks
Adler, what have you got to say? What's that look on your
I
face?
think I'm afraid he's gonna walk up to you and be like, "Oh, hey, Bubba, where's Rick?"
Oh,
Yeah,
my-
one of them.
okay.
No, it's gonna
Or hey,
That happened to me at Publix yesterday.
hey, are you John Boy or Billy?
Okay.
What if he asks you?
Hey,
It's
there
Bubba
we go.
loves fun.
Okay. What y'all doing right now is wise, though, because now you see my expectations
Yeah, we
going
got you
down.
there. I'm
Yeah.
trying to
Hey,
do
look. He's going to know who you
nice
are,
to
but
meet
act
you.
like it's not a big deal to you either. Just, hey, man, how you doing?
That's the hard part for
and
me.
then to ease into it.
Ask him where he was on January 6th.
All right.
Bubba, Rick and Bubba.